surface of the earth. If you know anybody traveling along I-55, really just to the west of Osceola, a lot of this, I know it's relatively farmland areas, but still worthwhile just to mention that out loud. If you know anybody traveling north or south on 55, give them a first alert. Make sure that they know what they're about to drive into here, because that wind's going at a pretty quick rate. Over into Wilson, that's another community along U.S. Highway 61, State Highway 14, over onto South County Road 343 into far southern portions of Mississippi County. Here's your first alert for the potential of some strong winds, some very heavy rain, and some lightning on this as well. If we turn the lightning onto this, you can see a lot of this is into the eastern portion of Cross County and into southeastern portions of Poinsett County and into Craighead County. So, Ron, this is still packing a bit of a punch here. National Weather Service did note, going back here about 5 to 10 minutes ago, that they had a 60 knot wind report as far as the radar estimating that, and that translates to about 70-mile-per-hour winds. Yeah. Yet again, going back about 10 minutes ago. Looks like it's down a touch, but it's still packing a bit of a punch.
I tell you what, I want to stay with this for a little longer. We had hoped to just cut in quickly and then take you back to The Voice and continue on our digital platforms, and we'll likely do that as the night progresses. Right. But this is an ominous little cell right now. If you've noticed, if you spent any time outdoors today, it's been warm, it's been muggy, so there is still some fuel. And even though the sun has set and the atmosphere is trying to stabilize, there is still enough energy out there to allow this system to grow. Now, we were looking at this a moment ago. Look at that. The lightning strikes now up to about 254 strikes. So as we see that lightning strike count go higher, that's an indication that that storm itself is getting stronger. And with those winds, we could see some damage coming into parts of Mississippi County, especially around Osceola. So folks in Osceola, I want you to get to the safe place in your home right now. Just make sure you're on the lowest floor of your home. We're not looking at tornado threat. What we're looking at is the potential of damaging wind, which could take down trees, power lines, and create problems. Stay away from windows as well, because that could certainly be an issue. But let me take I'm going to do one thing first. I'm going to put a track on this again, just to give you an updated track, and I'm going to track just outside the polygon. That's going to bring in a portion of Shelby County. So Joyner, 758. It'll move into Osceola right around 806. We're tracking this at about 35 miles per hour as it moves to the east. Fulton, 816. Drummond's, 820. Munford, 833. Get ready for wind, heavy rain, and possibly some small hail. Then into Toka at 838. Covington, 848. Tabernacle at 859. Now, let me take a little slice of this, because Eric was talking about hitting this at about 1,300 feet. That's going to give us a good idea of where the lightning, or excuse me, the hail may be in this storm. And also, those storms, Eric, they're topping out at about 40,000 feet. So they've got some height on them.
Yeah.
That is absolutely amazing. I'm looking for a well-established hail core in here. And basically, we're looking for the color purple. All right, so if you see some purple, look at this. You see that little area right there? That is a suspended hail core. All right, so we've got hail right here. But as it falls through the atmosphere, getting down to the surface, it's probably at about 15,000 feet there. So as it's falling, friction and that warmer air from the surface is allowing it to melt. That's going to drop a lot of rainfall in that area. But just from that view, it does not look like we're seeing the hail reach the ground. But let's go ahead and play this on out. Let's take a look at the rest. So we're just kind of slicing it right in the middle. All right, so I'm coming on down. That's the one little area that I see that hail core, but not reaching the surface. But it is bringing in some very heavy rainfall, and that's what we're looking at. That could lead to the potential for some flash flooding. But again, we're with you right now simply because we have a severe thunderstorm warning. This is for southern Mississippi, Lauderdale County, Shelby County, and Tipton County. This is going to go now until 8:15 this evening. And it's looking pretty ominous. Eric, you've got something to add?
Yeah, so, Ron, meteorologist Patrick Ellis, you know him. He can't stay away from this either. And, he's texting me back and forth. And he said to me that there's a decent mark signature on the backside of the storm. And he thinks that they might even kick the winds up or make them a little bit stronger here. So that's something to note here. And I kind of agree with what he's saying, too. So what I do have up behind me, I do want to point this out. This is one of the Arkansas Department of Transportation cameras along I-55. And this is looking over towards the Joyner region right now, and specifically towards the north. And the strongest part of this this is likely just past where this given RDOT camera is, but I still want to give you a good idea exactly what we're looking at here, specifically along I-55. Obviously a lot of rain, you can see the lightning, and hey, don't get me wrong, the trucks are still cruising on by right now at a pretty good clip. But if you are over into Munford, Millington, into the western portion of Tipton County, good idea to play it safe than sorry. Get to that safe place right now. And when we're talking about a safe place here across really just your home in general, I know we talk about tornado warnings all the time, you know, where to go with that. But when it comes to a severe thunderstorm warning, it's still smart to put as many walls between yourself and the outside world and get into the lowest level of your house as well. You know, something like a bathroom. And even if you don't necessarily want to go overboard with that, even though you're always better off being safe than sorry, just get away from the windows if nothing else here. So this way you don't have to worry about any sort of debris flying into your neck of the woods. But the wind's still kicking along with this pretty good, Ron, and it's a severe thunderstorm. I think Yumi kind of thought this was going to be a quick little, you know, in and out with this, but unfortunately, since it's still looking like it's packing a punch here, I think we got to stay with this a little bit longer. Yeah,
and the greatest concern, once again, damaging wind. It is not a tornadic threat by any means, but damaging wind is the greatest potential. And look, damaging wind can do the same amount of damage that a tornado can do, and it can even do it a little more of a widespread area. And you've got like a wall of wind that's just now crossing 55. As a matter of fact, if I take a look at the velocity, this is basically the wind itself. Look at that well-defined line right there. That is just a straight line wind that's just kind of punching in like this. And where we're seeing that little bowing segment right there on that edge right there, that's where that strongest wind is coming in. That's that rear inflow jet right there. And I think that's what Patrick was alluding to. Also, you can get a little activity coming in behind on both sides and amplifying that as well. So I know I've got a lot going on right there, but just to give you an idea of the significance of the wind itself. Now, I want to zoom in a little tighter. Eric, you've got the street level view on yours. We'll come to that in just a moment, but I want to track the wind right here because Golden Lake, that's bearing down on you right now. So let's put a little track on this. That's the strongest portion of the wind itself, all right? I'm going to track it to the south and southeast, or really east-southeast. So Golden Lake, 7:54. You got about 2 minutes to get to the safe place. Corona, 8:03. You've got a little extra time, but you need to move quickly to get to the safe place in your home. Fulton, 8:11. Look, if you've got anything outdoors that may be susceptible to flying, you've got a few minutes to get out there and secure it, but get out, get in quickly. Drummond's 8:20. It'll move into Gilt Edge at about 8:21. Then we'll see it move into Mumford, 8:33. Should get into Atoka at about 8:39, 8:44. We'll see that move on into Covington. But right now, it is that heavier wind or the stronger wind that's associated, and that's that leading track, and it's pushing right off to the south and southeast. But as I take a look at the big picture here, Eric, Memphis and Shelby County, right now faring well. Yeah, we need some rain in the area. Stronger wind we could certainly do without, but that little segment right there, that does look like it is expanding just to some degree. Let me put that into motion for you. It is a little messy in there. Right now, the strongest part of the storm, of course, that area that is warned, but we got to keep an eye on this activity back here. And Eric, that looks like that's trying to get its act together as well. What do you see there?
Agreed, and it's just the whole entire outflow boundary there that's kicking itself down to the south. So, and I know that a lot of people, hey, if you're tuning in for The Voice right now, I know that this isn't the most ideal thing to do, and we apologize for cutting into The Voice here, but, you know, we got to keep people safe here across the Mid-South, and we really do apologize for cutting on into this. But, Ron, especially, too, since it seems like some of these winds are trying to verify and be 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. You know, that's exactly what we're on. It's to keep everybody safe here. But some of those areas that are seeing the strongest winds right now, if you're over into Drummond's, this is now looking on into the Tennessee side of things. Drummond's is an area that I recall back in the spring getting hit pretty hard by a number of different cells. Here's your first alert to that. You're going to be seeing some pretty strong winds and some heavy rain here rather shortly. Let me turn around and put a storm track on this for you, so this way I could give you that first alert. So these have been moving to the southeast at about 35 to 40 miles per hour. We put that track on here. We're looking at Turl and Wilson, Arkansas pretty much now. Munford, this is going to be into western Tennessee and specifically into Tipton County at about 8:19. Millington at 8:22. Atoka in the range of about 8:23. Brighton at 825, Galloway at 842, Braden at 843, Arlington, your time when you can start to see some of these stronger winds and some pretty heavy rain as well as lightning and thunder into your areas at 843, and Mason as well as Lakeland at 844. So your first alert to some of those communities there into Tipton County as well as into Shelby County, seeing some strong winds here, and you will be seeing some strong winds really between about 8:15 to 8:45. As far as who's seeing some of those strong winds right now, we're looking over towards Frenchman's Bayou, St. Thomas, over towards Stacy, Turl. This is knocking on your door right now. I wouldn't go outside if you have any sort of loose objects out there and try to bring them on in. Quite frankly, it's a little too late for that now. But if you are over into Drummond's, or if you're into Millington and Munford, some of those areas into Tipton as well as Shelby and even into Lauderdale County, here's your first alert. Try to bring any of those loose objects on in. If you have a tree that's outside your house that you know has, maybe it's not the tree doesn't have the best integrity on it. Some of those branches, they don't exactly look the best. They might fall and it's under your car. Maybe a good idea to move your car out of the way here. But Ron, this is still packing a pretty good punch, and the National Weather Service noting on the north side of this into Mississippi County and eventually over into Lauderdale County that they put out a special weather statement for this, for the potential of some strong winds there too.
I tell you what, Eric, let's take this up to the top of the hour, then we'll take you back to your regularly scheduled programming, because right now I'm encouraged by the fact that it's staying north of the Memphis metro, but I still want to keep the folks that are under the warning, and especially Mississippi County, Tipton, Lauderdale County. We want to continue tracking this for you. Now, right now, it looks like the strongest winds will avoid Memphis and Shelby County. However, we've got some heavy rain that's coming into parts of Shelby County right now, and you get up around Rosemark, there's some heavier rain there just to the east of Millington, and then to the southwest coming into right along Highway 51, and the much needed rain. There is some stronger wind that's coming in behind it, but the most intense portion of the storm right now is this area that is right here. That's where we're finding that bow echo that's coming on through, and the warning itself, that's going to remain for another few minutes. So it goes until 8:15, but again, heavy rain, wind, and the potential for some flash flooding coming with this, and we can't rule out the possibility of some hail too. Let's see if our hail tracker is kicked up. And I really don't see much there, so good news there. It looks like it is mainly a heavy rain situation with the potential for the damaging wind right there on that edge, and you can even see it really starting to approach Osceola right now. It's coming down at about 4 inches per hour, so you're going to get that sudden gust of wind right there on that leading edge as it's coming on through. That's where your damage potential comes into play. That's going to be followed by the heavier rain behind it. That could lead to some flash flooding in the area. So Lauderdale, Tipton County, I want you to be aware of that. And if you don't have to be out tonight, just stay home. Let this move on through. We need the rain. The severe aspect we could certainly do without. But right now, the greatest threat with this is the potential for wind. Eric, you've got a pretty good view on it right now as it's crossed 55, pushing towards the river. What are you seeing?
Osceola, Ron, that really seems to be the area that's getting the hardest hit, or some of those strongest winds right now over in Wilson. A lot of those communities here that are along the Mississippi River into southeastern Mississippi County in northeast Arkansas. But this is going to be crossing on over the Mississippi River here into Tipton, Shelby, and Lauderdale counties rather shortly. So yet again, your first alert, if you're along Highway 51 north of Memphis into Millington, Munford, Brighton, Covington, Henning, Ripley, some of those areas, good idea to bring any of those loose objects you might have indoors that could quite frankly go flying around. Bring them on inside. We're not worried about tornadic activity with this, but Ron, there certainly are some strong winds.
All right, folks, so give me 90 seconds and then we're going to get you back to your regularly scheduled programming. I want to put another track on this. Again, we've got a severe thunderstorm warning right now. It is for Lauderdale, southern Lauderdale, Mississippi County, Shelby, and Tipton County. It's a very small portion of Shelby County, mainly really including Millington, Shelby Forest area. But Tipton County, southern Lauderdale County, there's a storm coming through there and it is packing a punch. So I just want you to be weather aware, and we'll continue to track this on our digital platforms in just a second. Let me give everybody watching right now on Action News 5 one final look, and I'm tracking it just beyond the polygon itself because we could see that extended if it holds on. So 802 into Osceola, it's about to come in there within about 3 minutes. Drummond's 817, Gilt Edge 823, Atoka Atoka, 8:35, Covington, 8:45. Then it moves into Tabernacle at 8:56. We'll see that move into Mason at 9:08. And then continue into Bird's Bower at about 9:20. So a 35-mile-an-hour storm moving off to the east. Wind is the main concern. Still a lot of lightning in here. Let's check out the lightning counter to see if that has increased. We're at just over 250 strikes earlier, still holding in that ballpark at about 238 strikes. So this is a storm we're watching right now. Here's a look at the big picture. Mainly rain for most areas, but it is that one cell crossing 55, moving through Mississippi County, about to cross the Mississippi River. That is the strongest storm we're watching right now. Memphis and Shelby County, good shape for most of the city. Northern Mississippi, you've been dry, warm, and muggy, but rain and thunderstorms coming your way later tonight. We'll be talking more about that on Action News 5 at 10 p.m. In the meantime, we're going to continue to track this on our digital platforms. As I mentioned, you can find us on YouTube, the Action News 5 Facebook page, actionnews5.com, and you can go to the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. Eric and I are going to stick around, track this. In the meantime, for those of you watching Action News 5, we want to get you back to your regularly scheduled NBC programming right now. All right, so let's switch over to the digital platform as we are here. Eric, tracking this storm right now, and with that, the severe thunderstorm going until 8:15. Tell you what, Jayla, can you take programming out of our ear so that we can continue to track this? And I do believe we are on all of our digital platforms. Am I right? Can folks? Okay, and oh, that's right, we're on 5.3, so you can watch us there at 5.3 if you want to watch on your television. Eric, we've been tracking this now for a few minutes. Any thoughts? What are you seeing?
So National Weather Service did note that there's that outflow boundary that's kind of racing out ahead of this, and typically when that happens, it can kind of, quite frankly, just kill some of these showers and storms and really eliminate that severe weather threat. But
sometimes.
Yeah, that's
sometimes.
What you took the words out of my mouth. That's exactly what I was going to say. So usually it takes a little bit of time for that to happen. It's not like that's an instantaneous thing here. So I just want to note that out loud here, RC, just so you know for yourself. That's what the National Weather Service is thinking.
You can almost see it, Eric.
Yep.
Look at that. Look at those little cells west of Mason. So that outflow boundary comes out, and then it gives the air a little bit of a lift. So when it does that, it's given that air a little. So an outflow boundary is basically, it's air that's just flowing down from the storm, all right? So it's coming from the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere, hitting the surface and spreading out. But what it can do is take little pockets of moisture and give them a little bit of a lift. And when that happens, you can get storms that break out in advance of it. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now. So as I put this into motion, look at this. You see those little cells that are popping up? That's that outflow boundary they were talking about right there. So they're trying to move in one direction. This is coming in another direction. So all that's going to collide. And we'll watch that and see what it does and where it's going over the next few minutes. You get some pretty good information on there. One of the things that that was impressive for me were the storm tops on this thing. They were hitting at about 40,000 feet. Where are we right now?
So, Ron, of course, it's always going to kind of vary storm by storm. You know that better than I do. And some of these, they still do have a bit of height to them here across the Mid-South. And personally, the one that I have popped up right now, it's kind of a rogue storm that's out ahead of the main line into the Shelby Forest area, into northwestern portions of Shelby County. And this is indicating the top's only about 14,000 feet. And that's not particularly impressive. When we start seeing storm tops that are above 30,000 feet, that's like, okay, you know, it's starting to get a bit more legitimate. Once they climb above 40,000 feet, 50,000 feet, and even taller than that, that really starts to gain our attention, and that's when we could see some big-time hail. Now, fortunately, these aren't in the range of 40, 50, 60,000 feet as far as the ones that I'm looking at right here, but they're still about 20,000 feet and really between about 20 to 30,000 feet here. So, yet again, your first alert, if you're along Highway 51, Millington, Munford, over into Covington, Brighton, Atoka, some of those areas there, good idea to get to that safe place. And yet again, I know this isn't a tornado warning, so you know you may not necessarily treat this, quite frankly, with the same respect, and I get that, as say if it wasn't.
We should.
Right, that's what I was about to get at here.
I really think we should.
Yeah, and the moral of the story with that is to get into the interior of your house here. get into the bathroom that doesn't have any sort of windows within it. You want to get in that innermost portion of your house, get on that lowest floor as well. So this way you have pretty much as many walls as possible to protect you from the outside world. So good idea to do that. Yet again, if you're in Millington, if you're over in the Drummonds, some of those areas that are west of Highway 51 in Shelby County, Tipton County, Lauderdale County right now. Ron, what do you think as far as from a, let's look at this from a distance now. Yeah. If you're in Poinsett County, I think you'll agree we're in good shape there, right?
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, I think everybody that's really just kind of on the backside of this, these little storms right here, they're trying to do something. So I want to watch them as they move a little farther downstream. But I think if you're in areas that are Poinsett County, and really, for the most part, Cross County, it will be interesting to see how this impacts St. Francis County, because that's a relatively untouched atmosphere right there. So we can see that little portion of the cell blowing up, but I am encouraged by what I'm seeing back here. It's rain. It's bringing with it much needed rain. And by the way, the U.S. Drought Monitor updated last Thursday. I'm anxious to see what it's going to look like this week. It updates every Thursday. But we have had extreme drought into parts of northwest Tennessee. We've had extreme drought conditions across the Missouri boot heel and even into really encompassing much of northwest Tennessee, Dyer County, northern Lauderdale County. Eric, you've got the drought monitor up there. Take a look. You'll see what I'm talking about. But severe drought also impacting other parts of West Tennessee and northern Mississippi. So drought conditions, they've been bad over the last couple of months. Now this rain coming in here, it's the severe weather aspect that we could certainly do without. Can we show that drought monitor? I want to show that. That's on Eric's system, and just take a look at the Action News 5 coverage area and how it's impacted. Those areas in red, that's extreme drought. Boot heel, northern Mississippi County, they need the rain. Then you've got severe drought for just about all of West Tennessee, now expanding along the 55 corridor in northern Mississippi. We've got moderate drought across a good part of eastern Arkansas. Now the good news is this is not the growing season, this is the harvest season. One of the downsides of this is a lot of farmers letting corn dry. They're still bringing in cotton, and sometimes rain will create some issues with that. It can create mold issues with the corn. It can create issues with the cotton adhering to the plants, making the harvest a little more difficult. But at the same time, just see everyday folks, and the ground moisture itself needs the rainfall. That's what we're getting. It's the severe weather we can do without. Let me go back to this and let me put a track on what we're looking at here. I'm going to clear all this information off. And here's a look at the big picture, the real area of activity along and west of the Mississippi River. And by the way, that's where our slight risk extends, but we still have a marginal risk a little farther east. That is the lowest of the 5 threat levels. But this is the cell right here that we're watching closely. It's approaching the river. It does look like it is kind of becoming a little disorganized. I think its slow movement may have to play in that as well. These storms, really, when they're moving along at about 45, 50, 60 miles per hour, that's when they can do their greatest damage. These storms, and Eric, I think they've been moving, what, 35, maybe 40 miles per hour to the east. So when it happened, when they're moving that slowly, that basically the downdraft starts to just kill the storm itself. But it is still showing some decent signs of some pretty significant wind. Look at that area right there. It's the brighter area of green. That's what I'm looking at right there. That's that leading edge. That's where those stronger winds are. And look, these can take down power lines. These can take down trees. They can create some big problems for homeowners in the area. So taking a quick look at that, I'm going to put another track on it quickly. Let me zoom out one more time. Then, Eric, I'll throw it over to you. It looks like you got a little mess you're looking at over there. That's going to be interesting to see how that shapes up. But let's put a track on this leading edge of the storms, all right? And I'll even take it from just to the west of Osceola outside the polygon. Were you going to say something? Jump in.
Sure. So, and Ron, don't forget too, as far as your graphic system go and what you have up, if you want to see what I got on links and just want to do it right away, I believe if you go forward a graphic, you have that ability to kind of go back and forth with my stuff too.
I can, but I like to see you doing your stuff over there too. And I think the folks at home do too. Eric Brill is absolutely amazing. Brilliant meteorologist, a great addition to the First Alert weather team. So, yeah. Eric,
All right, I only gave him a Lincoln. I only gave him a Lincoln for that one. I didn't give him a 20.
Let me show. Sergio's in the booth, I believe. Yep. Sergio, let me outline these cities right here.
Yeah,
so bring me up full quickly, and before I choke to death, here are some of the communities in the in the path of this. Drummond's 817, then Burleson 823, then it's going to move into Covington at 839, Rosemark 850, Canaan Grove at 857, Mason 908, then into Galloway 915, and Brownsville at 930. Heavy rain, gusty wind, the wind right there really on the leading edge of that line, and that's really the biggest threat as that continues to push to the south and to the southeast. Lightning strike counter, let's check that out once again. I'll just track where the polygon is over. 215 strikes, coming down a little bit, but still showing some signs of holding together. Eric, you're looking at the storm threats. Let's see some hail cores in there.
Yeah, without a doubt, Ron. And, you know, one thing when we have the storm threats pulled up here that gets my attention, it makes me believe that we could really see some hail out there, or when we start seeing these little black pixels that pop up. And we've had a couple of those here over the past about 10 to 15 minutes or so. And I wouldn't be surprised if we do potentially have some change-sized hail, as I like to call it here. You know, now you're wondering, what am I getting? Well, it's literally changed. So quarter-sized hail,
props.
Wouldn't be surprised if we do have some of that around here, and I'd say at the least probably some nickel-sized hail. And, you know, the difference between a quarter and a nickel, it's not exactly a drastic difference here, but it can still cause damage. If, you know, if you have a cracked windshield or something like that and it hits your windshield, you can unfortunately get, you know, a little bit of destruction out of that. So if you know anybody into northwestern portions of Shelby County, Shelby Forest, over towards the Cuba region, over near River Bluff Road, Riddick Road, St. Paul Road. This is yet again looking to the west of Millington, west of Shelby Road, Russell Bond Road, Gilestown, Griffin Corner, some of those areas into northwestern Shelby County. Good idea to get inside. Hopefully you're already inside, as it is anyway, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do see some quarter-sized hail. If I pop this up here, this is going to indicate that there's golf ball-sized hail. I think that's probably a bit excessive. Usually this has a tendency to overdo the hail size a little bit here, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do have some quarter-sized hail falling from that. And Ron, I kind of wouldn't be, the National Weather Service did kind of note that they were talking about the interaction of the outflow boundary and some of these little cells that were out ahead of this, you know, potentially spiking up before they start to fall down really quick here. And I think that's exactly what we have into northwestern Shelby County.
And that's what we call, it's a pulses up, all right? So it pulses up quickly, but look, the sun is down, the atmosphere is really starting to stabilize to a great degree, but it's as it encounters this relatively untouched atmosphere here, there's still a little fuel to give that a bit of a lift as the evening progresses and these storms move on off to the east. But right now, I'm really encouraged by what I'm seeing, at least in regard to the overall severe weather aspect of this. Yeah, it is creating some problems for folks that are really not only within the polygon itself, but across northern Crittenden County, even a little closer to the Blytheville area in Mississippi County, and as it comes across the river into Lauderdale, and I think this is going to impact all of Tipton County. So it's still going to create some big problems. And even northern Shelby County right now, not looking at anything in the way of severe aspects there, because really most of it's just to the north. But at the same time, we've still got to be mindful of this. And then these storms that we're talking about, the little storms that have broken out in advance of it, they could see a little bit of an uptick as that comes on through. And what that means, you could see an intensity in lightning, in the potential for hail, and also you could see the potential for some flash flooding in these isolated areas. Keep in mind, the ground is still relatively dry for most. So as that heavy rain comes down, the ground can't absorb it rapidly or fast enough. That leads to a runoff, and that can create some big problems there. Eric, I want to zoom in on a couple of these smaller cells just to see what they look like in the middle.
And Ron, just while you're pointing those out here, I do want to note to you, the National Weather Service is going to expire the warning when it's set to expire here in about 70 seconds. Okay. I will say I'm a little surprised that they aren't extending this just for Shelby County, just as a cover your assets sort of thing here with some of those Shelby County, Crittenden County storms, because they're still pretty strong down there.
Well, and that's why we're on the digital platform tonight, because I don't think it's worthy of basically you know, blowing out our network programming. But a lot of folks tracking these storms. And look, if you're under this right now, you're not having fun.
Right.
So we're going to be here and just stick around a little while longer, walk you through it all, and just see what's going on. But I want to slice this little storm right here. First of all, before I do that, it's not under a warning, all right? Let me say that. It's not under a warning. Let's look at it. About 14 strikes of lightning in there. Let's get a look at the wind within it. We'll throw up the scope, see if we see anything unusual there. I do see just to the north of Shelby Forest, see that little area right there? There's some pretty strong wind. That could be a little microburst coming down there. And I notice because there's a little bit of a V shape here, so as that's coming down, it may be pushing wind out around it, and that could be creating that signature that we're seeing on the radar site itself. But taking a look at that, let's look at the hail signature on it. Maybe a little small hail along 51, just over ½ an inch in size, right there in the core of that storm. But let's take a 3D slice of it. Let's just look inside it and see what it's doing. So here we go. Taking a look. Whoop, look at that hail core, Eric. You see that? That's pretty decent right there.
Yeah.
That little area. Sergio, bring me back full. Bring me back full. Keep Eric's mic up. But look at that little area. That is a suspended hail core right around 10,000 feet. As it's melting, it's dropping a lot of heavy rain, short period of time. And there's even a little more just to the south of it, but it looks like it's melting quickly. Eric, you've got a good view on it. Look, you want to talk about that? Let me step out.
Sure.
Tell me what you're seeing.
So that area in black right now, this is what I was just talking about, potentially being some golf ball size hail as far as what this is estimating. I personally think that's a little bit overdone. I'd imagine it's more quarter-sized hail than golf ball size hail. But, you know, take that and run with it here. If we look at what we have here for one of those storm tracks, one of these skits you hear us refer that to, gives us some information inside the storm. And this is indicating that the storm top's at about 14,000 feet. But what I want you to look at is that Brill density, and that's pretty much how much water is within this part of the storm here. And when that number starts to climb above about a 3.5, 4, that draws my attention. The fact that it's at a 6, I feel pretty safe in saying that we have some hail within there. And if we could turn around, let's take the downtown camera, because that's usually pointed to the north here, and I bet that's going to have maybe a little bit of activity, because this would be looking right at this given storm that we're talking about here. So let's see, this is now the downtown camera looking to the north. You could see downtown Memphis towards the middle and slightly to the right of your screen, the M Bridge on the left. Best Care Home Services camera looking to the north here, showing at least some ominous clouds out there. Specifically where this camera is, we didn't expect there to be any rain, because a lot of the activity is a few miles to the north of here. But there are some cells, and it looks like some clouds trying to develop here and eventually turn into some showers and storms. I thought there was going to be a little bit more lightning within this here, but it's not a severe warned storm, so you know, there's only so much lightning you can expect with a sub-severe storm here. But if we take a wider view of things, one thing I do want to note yet again, the Mid-South is not under a severe thunderstorm warning anymore. So there is some good news within that we don't have any of those orange polygons on your screen or those orange boxes on your screen indicating a severe thunderstorm warning. We don't have any red boxes either, which would indicate a tornado warning, but there's certainly some heavy rain, likely some 45+ mile per hour winds, some small hail, and some really heavy rain throughout parts of Shelby County, Crittenden County, Mississippi County, Tipton County, Lauderdale County. If you're in northern Mississippi, you're tuning on into this right now, we're in pretty good shape, but I do think as we see the next couple of hours evolve, we will be seeing these showers and storms move into your neck of the woods. So let's dive back into it, see what we got going on with some of these storms here, a little bit of information that we have into the precision tracker here, so we could kind of get some of the numbers on this. We're still looking at those storm tops at about 17,000 feet. That Brill density that I was talking about, that is pretty much how much water's above you. We're looking at a 6.5 with that now. So
vertically integrated liquid.
Yep. There's your $5 phrase of the day here. You'll have the quiz coming up here at about 8:45 to remember that one. Yeah. But that number at a 6.5, that's a pretty high number. A little bit further to the west in northeastern Crittenden County, that's at Eric, a 2.5.
You and I were talking about Brill density yesterday. There's a number you look at that really grabs your attention on that. Brill density, it's vertically integrated liquid. In other words, it's how much liquid is in a column of the atmosphere and how high does it go up. So that's what we're looking at in the density of it all. But there's a specific number, and we show this in grams, and a lot of people don't understand what they're seeing. We're on the digital platform. We got time. You want to explain that quickly?
I mean, long story short, when I see that number get to a 4 or higher, I say, that's a lot of water. It's a lot of rain, and there's likely some hail within there too.
And what is a potential hail size when you see 4 grams of liquid? I think it's 4 grams per meter squared or meter cubed.
Meter cubed, yeah. So that usually starts talking nickel-sized hail to me. That's pretty much getting to the borderline of severe hail that I think could be embedded within that. And if we're talking about that being a 6.5, I feel pretty confident that, we're talking about change-size hail while I drop a quarter. And, this doesn't exactly look big, but I also have pretty big hands, and quarter-sized hail is exactly what you need to have a severe thunderstorm.
That's 1 inch. A quarter is 1 inch.
Right.
Yeah, so.
And if you were to walk outside and get hit by, a quarter that's coming from a few thousand feet in the air, it's going to hurt. So that's obviously why we don't recommend anybody going outside to check these out here. If you are into, let's go with Bartlett, Memphis, Collierville, Germantown, I do anticipate this heading in your direction. If you do have any sort of loose objects that are outside, or yet again, if you have any sort of tree branches on a tree that's, maybe not that has the best health per se, then the branch might come down. Try to avoid parking your car under there or having your car under there. Bring it on inside, or at least move it away from there. So this way, if the branch comes down, it's not going to be fun to pick it up, but at least it doesn't impact your car here. So the National Weather Service did note that there are some 40 to 45 knot winds along that outflow boundary. So I guess we're looking in the range of kind of 50 to 55 mile per hour winds that could still be riding along that. And I think that's what's blowing through Memphis right now. So Sergio, if you can we take that downtown camera? Because I'm looking at this here, and Ron, now we're looking at the Midtown camera. If you look on the right-hand side of your screen, I kind of think that's almost the outflow boundary out ahead, and there's probably a pretty good looking shelf cloud that we have racing itself to the east and to the southeast here. So the good news is, at least if you're traveling along the M Bridge, and maybe if you're listening to us, at least we're in good shape from the perspective we're not seeing any sort of large quantities of lightning or the camera rocking around too much there. And this is what I was looking at here on the Best Care Home Services camera. This is into Midtown Memphis. Ron, do you know off the top of your head, how high is this camera into the sky?
200 feet.
200 feet.
200 feet. It's on a tower that's in the back of the television station here in our parking lot in Midtown. So we're looking from 200 feet and looking to the west. You can see the downtown skyline there in the distance, but you also see those clouds lingering over the city of Memphis. There is rain coming our way. We've not seen much of anything for the majority of the day today, but there are already parts of Shelby County seeing rainfall, and there's more spreading to the south and to the southeast. And Eric, you've got a good look at the big picture here. I know it looks a little ominous. One of the things we were talking about earlier is the fact that the radar returns themselves look a little scarier of sorts. I don't even want to use the word scary, but look a little more ominous than is what is actually occurring. Right now, really the greatest concern for me is lightning. And I think even the wind threat has diminished a little bit, but look at that. We got 166 strikes of lightning right there. The second most deadly natural phenomenon, lightning. Yes, lightning. So that's when we say, when thunder roars, go indoors. Get out of the lightning. The number one most deadly natural phenomenon, flooding. There could be some flash flooding tonight. And as we always say, you come to a flooded road, turn around, don't drown. You're putting your life in danger, and you could be putting the lives of first responders in danger as well. So never try to cross a flooded road. Right now, it's all about the rain. It is coming in. It's got a lot of lightning. The wind itself, especially in this area right here. Whoops, I wanted to zoom in. Let me clear that off real quick, and let me zoom in. Because even that little bow echo starting to break up a little bit, Eric. I think it is encountering a little resistance. There's a big ridge of high pressure. It's off to the east, and as it's kind of hitting that, the high forces air to the surface. So as this is moving off in that direction, it's trying to continue to lift. But if you've got something punching it down or forcing it down, it's really having a tough time keeping its act together. There is one little significant area right there, southern Lauderdale County. Let's take a look at this on the velocity itself and show you what's going on there. Not quite as impressive as when it was coming on through, but still looks like it may be packing a punch anyway, as it's now moved to the east of Osceola, and more specifically, it's that leading edge right there. See that little area right there? That's where we've got that just wind punching on through there and coming in. Things looking a little better for Covington right now, and as a matter of fact, it looks like Covington just getting a lot of, just to the west of you, about a heavy rainfall. Let me put a track on the rain itself, and I'll track it from the leading edge all the way to the east. Again, no warnings, no active warnings, but we've got some pretty decent wind and we've got some significant rain. It's moving. I'm going to give it a little bit of a southerly component. I think that's a little better in the track itself. So Covington, 8:30, you're going to get some heavy rain out of this in about 5 minutes. Henning, 8:35, we'll see that move into Ripley at 8:47, Canaan Grove 8:49, then it's going to move on into Nutbush at about 8:58, Stanton 9:10, Brownsville 9:19, and then 9:27 looks like it's going to move on into Allen. So that's what I'm looking at there. Let me take a little slice of this just to see. I don't think there's hail in this anymore. I'll hit the hail tracker first. Maybe a little bit just to east of 55, south of Ripley. Looks like it's less than a half an inch in size, so that's going to be more nickel size in the higher or in the mid levels of that, and as it hits the ground, maybe pea-size hail, so there is some melting that is occurring as that's moving on through. But again, let's take a look at the 3D slice, see the height of this storm itself. I'm going to really just kind of track it from here. Oh, and it's even lowering a little bit in height coming in behind it. I'm only seeing tops at about 20,000 feet.
You think that's a little suspended hail core if
well,
you kick it back to the north? Yeah, right over there.
Right here.
That might be some pea-sized hail aloft, and it's just melting as soon as it reaches the ground.
Yeah, it's not even hitting the ground because you can almost see it.
Yep.
Right there. There's a little area right there. So we're looking for purple, just the color purple, all right? That's a great thing about this. It will just kind of give you an idea at a quick glance of, you know, what is in the storm itself. And you have to understand that we're actually analyzing this live on air as we see it. So there's a lot of radar analysis and speculation that can go on while we're also looking at these storms themselves. And by the way, you can even see the height gradation of the radar beam. This is like right there at the surface, goes up a little higher right here, and then even more so the farther out it goes. But Eric, right now, I'm looking at a lot of rain, a lot of lightning, and I'm not even seeing that much in the way of wind.
Agreed. I will. So the wind isn't as big of a threat now as it was half hour or so ago. Meteorologist Patrick Ellis, he's Patrick Ellising it and texting me back and forth and whatnot.
He should be sleeping. He's got to be up at like 2 o'clock in the morning.
He's an animal. Come on, he's an animal. You know him.
Both of you are. You're absolutely amazing.
Ron, so are you. Don't, give yourself some credit here. You can hang with the kids too. Don't forget about that.
We have a great team.
But he noted to me, as far as the outflow, it's about ready to cross over the Mississippi here, the outflow boundary from Arkansas into Tennessee, ironically over the Mississippi River here. So it's possible we could take the downtown camera, and I know that it's looking to the north here, so it's not directly looking at that outflow boundary, hitting it in the face per se, but I think it could give us some interesting visual looks right now, so this way we could see, how much that camera does or doesn't rattle here. Because quite frankly, actually, now that I think about it, I think this is going to be the first time that I can really recall, Ron, that you and me are doing this, and that new camera is going to get hit by an outflow boundary, and we could see if it does shake a little bit. So not that this is going to be anything earth-shattering. It's literally just a camera shaking, but still at least gives us a good idea if we do have that going on here. And if nothing else...
You've got an RDOT camera up there. What is that camera I'm looking at on the monitor? Where is that?
So I'll pop that up behind me. So I believe this is looking over into... Was this in the Wilson or Joyner? Maybe,
it's right behind you. It says it on the screen. Northbound. Is that? Yeah, that is Joyner. You were looking at Joyner earlier when that was coming on through.
Yeah. Okay.
So that is, and now it's just rain.
Yeah.
It's rain. There was some strong wind that came through there earlier. but now it's just rained. Look, this thing is really winding down. Eric, we've got, here we're coming up on 8:29. I want to take some time. We've still got to look at the evening forecast models, get forecast updated for Action News 5 at 10. We have no warnings. There's wind, much needed rain, a lot of lightning with this. If you're at home planning to go out, if you're anywhere along and north of the 40 corridor, let this pass on through. Stay where you are, let it go. Again, nothing severe at this time. The activity itself is moving off to the east, but it's kind of making a slow push to the southeast. I think we're going to be dealing with rain for a good part of the overnight hours. We're looking at lows right around the upper 60s, low 70s tonight. Rain chances about 60%. Northern Mississippi, you've got rain coming, but it may be closer to the early morning hours before it starts to move in there. But I want to wrap it up. Eric, do you have any final thoughts before we get back to forecasting the weather and preparing for Action News 5 at 10?
Just over into Bartlett and Arlington and over towards Lakeland, you know, you've seen some of these showers and storms. I think you're going to get hit relatively shortly by some pretty strong winds. I'd say 35, 40, maybe even 45 mile per hour winds.
Sub-severe.
Right.
Non-severe winds.
And in order for you to have a severe thunderstorm, those winds need to be 60 miles per hour or greater. So technically 58, but just call it 60 miles per hour or greater here. And I think all these will stay sub-severe, but between Chief Meteorologist Ron Cholers and myself, I can assure you we are keeping an eye on all these showers and storms here. And as you said, Ron, we're in pretty good shape right now. We're still monitoring things, but we're in pretty good shape right now.
Yeah, we're not going to go anywhere. No. We're going to continue to watch this. So if you see us pop back on, know that that's the time to pay attention. In the meantime, get back to your web surfing or your television watching, whatever it was you may have been doing. Eric and I have got the weather. We're going to watch this. We'll keep you updated on the air, on the web, and of course on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. Great job tonight, Eric. Thank you. And for everyone watching, we appreciate that. And
thanks, Patrick.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick, for the assist from home. We appreciate it. Let's get you back to your programming now.